uplift us. So she has powers mostly essentially that are now being abused. And what it is that those who wish to control us, the entire society, know full well that the one they attack and make sure that they have under control is what I call the primary authority. The primary authority in the family is the masculine principle, which essentially is the last and final decision in that. Today, that's, oh my God, how could you say that? Well, that's because 75 to 85% of our families now are run by women. So being forced into a situation that is based in survival, because that's not a family. A single mother raising 3 and 4 children, sometimes who have 2 or 3 fathers, that is not a family. That's a survival unit. Big difference between a family and a survival unit. And we are being made to see the strength and the fortitude of our sisters unduly being used to be and to adapt to an artificial and destructive situation where she has to lead a family without a man. So now we've become formularized, and we've become satisfied with that kind of conditioning, so that now we just take it as a matter of fact, well, women are strong enough, they can take care of themselves, be independent, they can run a family, be damned with them. No, they're not. And it is because we as men have failed to reconquer our space as being the original authority, which means we have to shed blood, which means we have to go at the enemy and take back our women from the clutches of their psycho-spiritual lockdown, so that they don't have to act like me anymore. I can act like me if I now have the position in society that I deserve and is supposed to be what I am the one to control. But I don't have that control anymore. They defeated me, and I am defeated, and therefore the prize goes to them, which is the greatest prize in our lexicon, our woman. So they know exactly how to cripple our men. They take our women, elevate them to our status, and then undermine us by not allowing us to have the opportunities to be the men in our society. So what do? We go and we create another society. They call it a gang. They call it, criminal enterprises. But we have to use our genius to create what we normally would do, and that is a society. And what is a gang except a society? They have rules, they have regulations, they have rites of passage, and they have an enterprise, they have an economic base, although it's a pathological one. So we as men have not yet figured out how to recapture the space and the environment so that our women can become and be women again, and to raise our family the way we want them to be raised. So we could be complaining about all this crap that's going on with the black community. We ain't got this, we ain't got that. We ain't got the men and the army to take back what is ours. And that is the most precious thing that we have in our existence, and that is our queen.
Well understood. Well understood. I know the way he puts it, I can't even come behind and say nothing. I'm like, I'm listening. I was just so beautifully, just so eloquent. Say it. Thank you, brother. Thank you. You have any further? You had another further? You had anything further, brother?
No. If I have anything, I'll just tune back in.
All right, okay. All right. Hey, I'm going to bring back in, we had a sister drop off. I'm going to sit down and bring this sister back in. It's a sister that dropped off earlier who asked a question about the extraterrestrials. It's a sister Jodeci. I'm going to bring her back in real quick. Sister Jodeci, did you want to continue your comment? Dr. Valentine? Okay, go ahead.
Actually, he answered the first one very well. I had another one. I want to know, in order for us to reach a higher vibration, will we need to just kind of like start thinking more clearly, eating healthier, in order to reach the spirit realm, so to speak?
Oh, yes. The body is the mechanism through which the spark of life that we represent, the spark of intelligence that we represent, actually manifests its own reality through. So the more healthy and the more balanced.
Wait, but let me mute her because you're getting a lot of feedback, Sister Jodeci. Go ahead, Dr. Valentine.
Thank you. The more pure And the more healthy our cellular structure is, which the cells, again, are made up of atoms, the atoms of molecules, the molecules themselves are made up of the dominant substance of what the cell is, the nucleus. These are intelligences, and if you do not create the proper environment for them to operate, then how could you have a higher spiritual experience? Because the physical experience and the spiritual experience are actually come together as a nexus towards that operational communication with you and your creator. So how could you have a poor receiver and a poor transmitter and hope to have a healthy relationship with your creator?
Now, listening to what you just said, now I do a lot of fasting. Matter of fact, I just completed a 21-day water fast. That's I do a lot of fasting. That's the longest I've been ever able to go. I have a goal of finally doing a 40-day water fast because it is my contention that until you purify the body, you can't have an optimal spiritual experience. Is that kind of what you're saying, what you just got through saying?
Indeed, because you have become the antenna, and the less encumbrance that you have of waste matter that the body exhausts itself in doing its best to relieve itself of it, because a lot of our energy and attention and a lot of the sleep that we need is based on processing and recuperating the strength that our body exhausts itself with the filth that we put into our system. And what they've done is they've exacerbated the efforts of our bodies by polluting the air, the water, and creating non-food substances that our body has to work very hard to recognize as food and to use whatever components within that filth as a sustenance. Because remember, your body is a gas-powered engine. As a gas-powered engine, you can tell what it needs the most. You can stop eating for 40 days. You can stop drinking for 3 to 6 days and still live, but stop breathing for 5 minutes. And you see which part of those components are most necessary in your body. So your body is a gas-powered engine. If the food you eat does not condense and become part of the gaseous medium in your system that feeds the cells, because the cells don't eat. That's a myth. Cells don't eat. And any pictures you see where the cell is doing phagocytosis, which is what they see, the cell invaginating itself so that it can enclose a substance, that is a cell created specifically for taking those kinds of materials out of the system. So your cells, the normal cells, actually function on gas, which is oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, helium. That's what your body functions on primarily first. So the breath of life is who you are, not the water of life, which is, of course, you are a component of, but you're not the Mickey D's of life. You're not the, you're not the Wendy's of life. You're the breath of life first. You are a breatharian first and foremost. And if you weren't a breatharian and you happen to have been the Mickey D of life, you'd have been dead already as a species because you couldn't exist. The kind of filth we eat, we'd have been died off, we'd have been extinct if we were not first and foremost breatharians.
Wow, I have to speak on this because this is a very, very, very big topic that's close to my heart, and that is the health. Because when I started fasting and purifying my body, when you do the fasting after your body goes into ketosis after 72 hours, and you start eliminating all these poisons that comes out through your urine. And the entire 21 days, I drank nothing but distilled water. All of this poison was coming out of my body. And I had to stop and think about the resiliency of the human body to withstand the abuse that we were constantly giving it day in and day out through the food we eat, the air we drink, and a plethora of other avenues that toxins invade our body. And I don't think, and I do shows like that, I think it's also a contributing factor to a lot of stuff that's with this UCC process and all this us dealing with the courts, getting in trouble, all these things. I just think it's a contributing factor to so many things, a block to wealth. All these different things are these toxins in our body. And I don't think enough is being stated about that, the nexus between the spiritual and the physical that is contained in that subject. And I think it's a very important. I've dedicated on my radio show a day to this subject. And, would you say that, that I just feel like this poison in the body is like blocking us from our mental powers. I mean, I think there's some things that we can do and we don't know, because from the time we're brought here on this planet, they start poisoning us. So we don't even really get an opportunity to even know who we really are and what our real capabilities are. As we're like poisoned from day one from entering this physical plane.
Indeed. They couple us first with the vaccinations as soon as we come out. And that way they have begun to terraform the bloodstream so that they are creating a consumer of tomorrow. So by polluting the bloodstream, they know that they have a customer that will definitely end up in the hospital or to maintain that medical control over the mind and the body. So we have a system in place that dysfunctions the body even while it's in the womb, because it's not very popular to speak about the fact that homosexuality can be created in the womb. And you need to read the folios of a man named Springmeyer, who was jailed because of him revealing what the Illuminati does to dysfunction and to create birth control mechanisms. He couldn't get the women to birth control and the birth control that they were using.
Hold on, Dr. Valentine. What was that name again? Because I think that's very important for our listeners, that author's name. Does he have a book?
No, he has a folio that's out. He has many folios. And you can check, his name is Fritz Springmeyer, Springmeir, I believe. But he began speaking about the fact that they couldn't, in Rome, at the Priory of Sion, they could not find a birth control mechanism strong enough and to deploy it rapidly enough to be able to stem the tide and growth of the population of people of color on this planet. And what they did was, of course, they began to do it in the white population by stemming the tide and creating a zero birth rate across the planet, a minus zero birth rate across the planet for the Europeans. But in order to stem the tide of birth control, they had to manage it systemically. And the way to do that was to discover how to disrupt the formational cycle of gender within the womb. And most people don't know this, but yes, there are people who say, well, I was born this way, and yes, I concur, you can be born that way. What I don't see is that those people who say that they're born that way is not normal, and that the fact that they are actually, those who are born that way are born with what is known as a congenital disease. But because of the fact that we are into political correctness, and because Obama himself is, and I've been saying this since 2010, that he himself was a homosexual, that we have more of the homosexual agenda being promoted and being accepted as normal, which it is not. Because anything that creates a offspring unlike itself is a species doomed to extinction. So for instance, if birds or say buffalo or any kind of bears began creating bears that wanted to have sex, male bears that wanted to have sex only with male bears, what is the chances for that bear population to proceed and to go forward? So there was a plan put in place in Rome that the best thing to do is to promote homosexuality and take it out of the realm of being an oddity and being out of abnormal, as well as them now taking pedophilia or child sex out of the realm of being a mental disorder and putting it into a sexual preference. Now, they've decommissioned it as a crime, and now it's a sexual preference. They've been continuously desensitizing us towards more and more adverse and perversity so that we now